Welcome to Critical Junction episode 26. I'm Mark.
I am Luke.
I'm Jill.
And today we're talking about cyberwarfare. So recently this week, executives from Facebook, Google, and Twitter were facing U.S. lawmakers in front of a U.S. Senate committee looking for answers about the potential that Russia had attempted to meddle in the recent 2016 U.S. election. So what they found was that Facebook, for one, revealed that approximately, I think it was something like 136 million Americans received or looked at fake posts that were, shared across their social media.
136 million Americans. That's half the population of the States, right there.
So that's one thing. An additional 16 million people were reached via bogus Instagram accounts. So just a couple of numbers to start that off. So, yeah, what do we think of the potential that the U.S. election had been meddled with by Russian hackers or social media engineers?
Like propaganda manipulators kind of thing, putting out false information. Like, what does this stuff look like? Do we know?
Well, the idea was that Russia had put out deliberately pro-Russian Facebook accounts and social media accounts and just kind of blasted all this propaganda at U.S. citizens via Twitter, via the U.S. Facebook, I guess, entity, and kind of influenced the results of the election.
Right.
So that's why they were testifying before the U.S. Senate committee.
I mean, there's a bunch of different strategies, right, that they were taking. There was these fake news sites, like the original fake news, like the Macedonian sites that were just literally made up websites with fake news stories that were completely made up on the spot. Then there was also the troll farms, I think it's called the Internet Research Agency or something like that is one of them out of St. Petersburg, and I think there was about 100 people who were whose job was to go out and spread these unfavorable stories against the left wing in the U.S. and against the Democrats and Hillary, and they were also just going on Twitter and Reddit and things like this and actually putting out actually participating in the forums and derailing the conversation threads and
it was social engineering at its finest, essentially.
Yeah.
They had a vested interest in, having Trump elected as president because of various reasons that we won't get into today, or will we? I don't know. 136 million. That's crazy. That's a crazy number.
They got to 136 million people. That's like the entire electorate, basically. Right. If you
would we have seen that stuff in Canada?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we would have.
As much as Canada also participates in American internet media.
What I
social
mean is,
media.
before the Trump election, for example, we were seeing this stuff on Facebook. We were seeing these.
We would have seen them too, I think, but it was targeted specifically at the U.S. However, here there's a new report according to the CBC that says foreign states are behind about 2,500 cyber attacks each year. So the report also goes on to say that Canada is not doing enough to fend off intruders, especially in vulnerable private sector areas. So we're being targeted too.
So it's
and this
war.
isn't.
It's a propaganda.
Basically, the entire Western world is being targeted.
Right, and this is not. It's not necessarily a new thing. It's just we're seeing it more these days. I guess because of the rise of social media.
It looks to me like a blatant direct attack on the liberal open society concept that became what's called the Western world now, right. That's the scarier part to me. That it's not so much about the election that Russia would have meddled in. It's about Russia actually trying to derail and fracture the fundamental culture and society and civilization that they feel that they're opposed to.
Yeah, well, it worked.
And it's to me it seems like it's unquestionably working.
Oh hell yeah! It's if you look at the dialogue that exists right now online, it isn't a dialogue. It's just like it's a vacuum of vitriol that just keeps exploding. You know, the comment sections on news stories or pretty much anything these days is just hatred and bigotry and all this bullshit. And you know, it's most probably, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but just it's most probably a direct result of.
I like hearing you say that word. Most probably, it's good. It looks good on you. You know, because you're usually all about the facts and stuff, and now you're saying most probably.
Yeah, I don't have any. I have no facts to back this up today. But,
it's good. It's good. Okay, sorry.
So I would think that it's a result of what Russia had attempted to do during the election and subsequently afterwards. The continued cyber attacks, and like you said, Jill, the active participation in forums and comment sections, just keeping that kind of negativity going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't have enough already.
I mean, I remember seeing this interview from the 80s with an ex-KGB agent. Just trying to pull it up right now. The guy's name was Yuri Bezmenov, and he explains this.
The most Russian name I've ever heard.
Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. So this guy, he kind of details exactly what the plans for the next few decades are by Russia,
really,
in terms of what they want to do with propaganda and against the U.S. and Western society. And he actually lays it out that what we're seeing and what's being speculated about and what keeps getting brushed off as DNC apologist bullshit. It was all completely laid out and kind of openly talked about, even by some of these Russian agents. And he's talking about this kind of stuff about fracturing. Sort of poisoning people's minds against their own institutions. So poisoning them against the media, poisoning them against government services and agencies, poisoning them against Hollywood, as like this big kind of cultural behemoth, that is like this almost magical tool that manages to create some kind of cohesiveness for American society, despite all the diversity we get, between North and South traditionally, and all this stuff. This is a big Hollywood in general is a big plus to American society, and keeping it a united front. So I mean, you can watch this on YouTube. Just Google this guy Yuri Bezmenov, and you'll find this guy's interview. It's fascinating.
Along similar lines, according to an article in Newsweek here, the headline is "Putin starts aiming his cyber weapons against individuals." So just a quote from the article. Since 2014, Russia has used Ukraine as a testing ground, and now I have an ad loading and it's screwing me up, so I can't finish reading it. So
that's what happens when we do our research.
From Russia. It's an ad from Russia.
Russia is actively trying to prevent this episode from airing properly.
From being recorded. This isn't even going out live.
If you're listening right
they
now.
They just know.
If anyone out there is listening to this.
They must have hijacked our
please know
laptop
that
microphone.
We have been attempted to. Russia is actively attempting to derail this episode. Alex Jones was right.
This is amazing, folks. You're seeing it live in action right now.
Let's go to our man in the field.
Kermit, you take it away. Okay, I wish we had a man in the field.
All right, so now that I'm back with the article, since 2014, Russia has used Ukraine as a testing ground for its hybrid warfare doctrine, underscoring what some security experts say is a case study for the new kinds of security threats the U.S. and its Western allies can anticipate from Moscow. The threats Ukraine faces are harbingers of things to come for the U.S. and its other allies, said Junaid Islam, Chief Technology Officer and President of VIDR, a California-based cybersecurity firm that does work in Ukraine. So apparently that's a thing that's happening.
So this is awesome, right? Like that was really upsetting to me. The whole watching unfold the whole Ukraine invasion back in 2013, 2014, and Trump's former campaign manager Manafort. The indictments just dropped on him last week. Mueller actually laid some indictments last week against Mueller. Another campaign contributor named Papadopoulos,
George
who
Papadopoulos,
I think this is the one that actually pled guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy has already pled guilty to two charges have been laid, and there was a third one to Page.
That's right.
Carter Page. And anyway, with Manafort. The fucking amazing thing about this is that Manafort actually was the guy who helped out the Ukrainian president who flipped on Ukraine when they were pushing to have this rapprochement with the EU, and they were expecting him to go out and sign some type of arrangement with them, and he comes back saying no, and he flipped, and his allegiances to Russia were revealed. So Manafort actually ran this guy's campaign too.
Right.
So there's like this long running history. And actually not so long running, like very recent history that demonstrates Manafort's like basically blatant shilling for Russia and their interests.
Like, see, all of this stuff is very well documented, right? It's evident. There's evidence to point towards it. It actually happened.
Yeah.
But reading some of the comments on these stories from God knows who, like, oh, this is just a deliberate attempt from the left to derail the conversation and shit like that. You know, they derail it to what? What are we trying to cover up? You know, these things happened. He pled guilty to it. So, like, what? Where's the conspiracy here?
Yeah.
It's really upsetting.
Where's it derailing? It's just kind of flat out tu quoque argument. Like no, you. Yeah. That's it. That's basically the. That's basically the entirety of the defense. There, it's like anything that you can pin on them, they'll just turn around and say, "No, you know, like I'm not the puppet. You're the puppet. No puppet. You're the puppet."
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's it.
In true Trump style.
In true Trump style, yeah. That's why he gets along so well with it. You know.
That seems to be the new way of arguing and debating these days. The tu quoque fallacy. Just nope. No, you did. No, you're a liar. No, you did. You did. You're a liar.
There's a real problem. We can't know what truth is anymore. Like
you can.
That's another thing. That's another thing. Like I think part of this whole online campaign of troll farms and stuff like that is to get people to doubt
facts.
But it's not true that you can't actually tell the difference between credible information and sources any less than you could 20 years ago, you know?
Well, how about this? It certainly makes it much more difficult. And it was already difficult.
Yeah, so part of the thing is just to actually push these kind of fallacious things like, what do you call it? Like a gish gallop. You know, you just throw out so much information out there, even just complete blatant non-credible shit that people have a hard time actually getting to the truth, getting to the true information, because they keep themselves busy with reading and then discounting all of the fake shit.
And going off of that, like to make matters worse, they've been very successful at getting people to doubt mainstream media as a credible source, right? Traditionally, mainstream media has been credible because they have fact checkers whose sole duty is to make sure that the information put out by mainstream media is factual and accurate. But now that people are doubting mainstream media, they're like, well, fuck you, nothing is real, nothing's true, I'm going to believe whatever I want to believe.
Yeah.
And that in addition to the whole gish gallop, throwing all kinds of things out at the same time to making things even more difficult, you know, it's it's a really
it's
tough
particularly
thing to combat.
it's particularly devious and perverse too, because it kind of throws some deep principles that kind of protect the liberal ideals of free information and stuff like that, like things like not revealing your sources and things like that to guarantee a free press. And they will turn around and say, oh, sources said so, so this is unverified bullshit again, this is still
if you're not going to say who did it, then we can't believe you it's real.
Yeah, then it's not evidence,
Right.
if you don't actually burn whoever your sources are.
Yeah, there's a reason why journalists protect their sources. Right?
I keep OCD organizing my Smarties in very interesting.
That's a good one there, right there.
There are Smarties on today's episode, airing a week after Halloween. That's Luke eating.
I don't know if you'd be able to hear that.
What are we talking about?
We were talking about.
Oh yeah, burning sources.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why the media protects them, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty self-evident.
Death. I'm assuming death.
Death is a good one. That's it's a
They
good
will be
reason
killed.
why to protect a source. It's also so like if there's a leak in like a government agency or whatever, and that source reports something nefarious happening within that agency to a journalist. They don't want to lose their job, obviously, but they have integrity and they want to make sure that is known amongst the general populace. So obviously, you're going to protect that source, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Why is that such a big deal to people?
I think it's just something to be used to their advantage is all it is, and anyone's using anything to their own advantage. So anything you can possibly grab to make an argument out of or speak against, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can possibly point at anything to speak in favor of yourself, you're going to do it. So
Right.
anything you can possibly do. I don't know.
Let's touch.
How articulate, Luke. That was very good. Yeah.
That was very good. Yeah. Brother Luke.
Did I just say something by accident?
You blundered into a coherent point.
Well, like this whole
Story of my life.
this whole cybersecurity thing touches here at home as well, right? So, according to to an article here in Global News, Canada's military is too vulnerable to cyber attacks. So to quote, the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces are looking to improve their ability to defend against cyber attacks, with newly released documents suggesting the current system remains woefully inadequate. So yeah, like our
is in my mind, I'm thinking, is what is it? Security, cyber security. Like, is that even possible? Like, eventually someone will just crack it anyway. It can only sustain itself for so long, and then it's vulnerable, it would seem. No,
Well, that's the whole idea of cybersecurity, is the continuous upgrade of our technologies and our way of dealing with increased threats. And just because, due to the fact that our systems are so antiquated within the military, it makes them vulnerable to attack, and we're not keeping pace with the threat level, is what they're trying to get across.
So it has to. So cybersecurity has to constantly adapt.
Oh yeah.
To protect the thing that is trying to claim solidness. Like, I have a real problem with claiming that our society is solid in any way in the first place. Like, when we say that Russia is attacking us, attacking what? It's already in shambles. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm getting
No,
at?
there are discrete and coherent cultures and societies. I mean, there is overlap and blurring of the edges and stuff like that, but insofar as borders are protected and administrations have clearly defined jurisdictions and things like that, people are kept separated globally to some extent,
Right.
and so things that kind of spread around and are true for one local quote unquote nation are not necessarily happening for another one,
Right.
Yeah, and these attacks aren't directed at the obscure idea of society necessarily. Like the one I'm quoting in particular, the cyber attacks are aimed at the military artifice, like the actual infrastructure of the military's cyber systems. They are ancient and antiquated, and according to this article, it would cost about $50 to $100 million to upgrade them to be a little bit more well protected against what's going on in the real cyber world these days. Because there are hackers who are actively attempting to breach our cybersecurity, and they're successful at it.
Right.
You know, that other article I was just reading, like 2,500 cyber attacks per day. I think it was that what I said? I can't remember. Whatever, something to that effect.
2,500. Yeah, I think that's what you said.
Yeah. So we need to keep up. Our security experts are urging the government to keep up pace with this kind of thing because the threat level won't go away. It just keeps getting worse. Like if you look at things like antiviruses, there's a reason why you have almost daily updates to the virus list. Is because the viruses keep getting churned out. Right? Unless we do something, we can't protect ourselves against them.
The funny thing that kind of confuses me actually is that important networks that you don't want mingling with like general public frivolity, you know, I'm just constantly surprised that they actually pursue this kind of integration. Like, why is it that D&D is actually making a network that's connected to the internet? Why the hell would they have that?
I don't think it's
why wouldn't the whole thing be about like closed?
It should be like for the most part, D&D systems are they're protected, right? But they're online still.
It seems like a whack-a-mole kind of thing, like
bit.
to be trying to update and make sure you're secure against the cyber threats that are out there on the internet generally.
Right.
Like why not have discrete systems? You know, have an internet for people to do their social networking and their shopping and a new internet or whatever for each government, you know. And I don't know. I'm not a tech guy, and I haven't really considered this in terms of what it implies ethically or whatever. But
let's talk about the ethics about it for a second. Like, where do we draw the line between civil liberties and the need for cyber protection? General question. Yeah, what's that?
Is it Benjamin Franklin that made that famous quote? He who trades a little temporary security whoever
trades liberties for
a little temporary security
deserves neither.
Was
that Jefferson or Franklin who said that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Could be either of those guys. It was one of the forefathers.
One of those Americans.
One of those American forefathers.
But yeah, like where do we draw the line between civil liberties and like our freedom to act on the internet and do whatever the fuck we want and download as much porn as we like and
just stream it. You don't have to download.
Well, I mean, I like to download it. I like having stuff at the ready in case the internet goes down. Just saying. What? Your internet has ever gone down? You're in the mood for a little something?
Yeah, no.
I don't know why.
You're right. I have my big black cock porn on my phone.
I have a biological spank bank right up here in that noggin.
True, but that's always there. It's no.
It's a.
I have a biological spank bank on one of our t-shirts.
We should start selling t-shirts.
Critical Junction. I have a biological spank bank.
Listen live. Yeah. Do we give up some of our civil liberties in order to increase security?
So I mean, civil liberties, they're never or have never been absolute, right? So when it comes to things like freedom of speech or privacy, there's always mitigating circumstances. You have freedom of speech, but only so far as you're not committing libel or defamation.
Well, only so far as you're not causing problems for us who are in charge, kind of thing.
Yeah, or explicit hate speech, you know, like incitement, like absolutely incitement to violence or things like that. And these are sort of reasonable limits to the rights.
Basically, what you're saying is you have freedom until you're bothering someone, and then we take your freedom away.
Like, to me, a lot of this talk about sort of slippery slope arguments against any form of limit to fundamental rights or whatever. They're just kind of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good kind of argument, and also a slippery slope fallacy argument too, right? I mean, it's not because you can't commit libel that you don't have freedom of speech, you know, and it's not because there's a law that says you can directly tell a group of people to go and assault somebody that you don't have freedom of speech.
Right. Like our freedoms aren't.
We can all kind of agree on these kind of reasonable limits, right? Like
yeah, our freedoms aren't. They're not unlimited or infinite. There is a limit to things. You know, like you said, freedom of speech doesn't include immunity for racism and bigotry. You know, one person's freedom ends where another's begins.
To some extent, there is immunity for bigotry, in a broad sense. I mean. You can't put someone in jail for thinking.
That's not what I mean, though. When I mean immunity, it doesn't mean that just like if you say something bigoted or racist, you're not immune from getting smacked in the face.
Right.
Well, it almost suggests that we're saying we have freedom of speech that leads to further freedoms. As soon as it's freedom of speech that leads to non-freedom, then we don't like it. Does that make sense? Okay. Because there's definitely a problem right now with the whole freedom of speech thing, because we're realizing that there's a bunch of assholes out there that are just saying whatever they want, and it doesn't make any sense, you know?
Nazis and
fascists. They're just wrong.
And Russian propagandists.
But does that make sense?
Did you guys hear about they found out that a rally, a big protest and counter-protest in Texas was completely engineered by a Russian troll farm.
Yeah, they set up both sides to go up against each other.
This is like
thing.
Okay, so this is like black and white, dyed in the wool, like patriot U.S. community. Who would scream till they're black and blue in the face that all of this Russian interference stuff is some bullshit DNC lie.
Conspiracy and a lie from Hitler.
They were directly fucking manipulated like the fucking stooges they are.
Yeah. Both sides,
and they don't fucking get it.
You were had. All of you were had.
Yeah. No. All these fucking 4chan Donald Trump supporters and alt-right bitches.
So the idea
they got
that like if we're looking at Russia, so the general idea is Russia is trying to dismantle our social security or something like this, right?
They're trying to completely disrupt the nation effectively.
I'm assuming
ultimately there's I think there was like a humiliation involved in like the outcome of the Cold War, right? So for a while we had two superpowers. Actually, even before the whole superpower arrangement, like Stalin wasn't too happy with the outcome of World War II, even though he was given way too much. But what they want to do is ultimately just destroy the power of the U.S. so that they can emerge economically as the one superpower in the U.S.'s place.
Unlike the U.S., Russia has the ability to think long term. Like this has been in the works, like you said at the top of the episode, for a very long time. It's been decades in the making. You know,
right.
It's not. This whole idea isn't relegated to one government in Russia. It's just, this is the plan. This is the 40, 50-year plan, and this is how it's going to be executed.
At this point, it's a cultural idea.
Yeah.
For them, it's not even necessarily like a technically discrete kind of policy, like a purposeful plan. Like it's so, I think it's so integrated in the culture,
ingrained in the culture and in their general mentality
that it's easy to find a 25-year-old who will be happy to be part of a Russian troll farm and actually carry out whatever.
Yeah. Okay, you want to get online and mess with the Americans? Yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And it's not a big deal.
So now let's say Russia succeeds at the utmost. What's the do we know what the goal is here? Is this purely economic? They want money. They want power.
For one thing, it's disruption. I think it might be economic. If you destabilize the U.S., they become the new superpower.
Right.
It can also just be a plain old libido and ego.
Sure.
Right. My cock is bigger than your cock.
Yeah,
Take a look at my cock.
Or I'm tired of being second string and globally and culturally, or second fiddle.
I just can't help but think that these problems they're not real problems. They're in the sense that they have been created.
Yeah, they're totally artificial. They're
in the sense there is no war but in our minds, and so therefore there's war. But really, there is no war. I don't know. It's very strange. I just wonder to myself. I always wonder, and I think of, for example, Star Trek. I think of the Borg, and I go, so what's the problem? Why not be the Borg? Seems
well. That's like that was like the concept behind Brave New World too, right? Like it wasn't necessarily the whole idea there was that it wasn't a straight up dystopia, right? It's like insidiously maybe a dystopia, and in some other sense, it's an ultra efficient and satisfying sort of contenting society for the people who are immersed in it, right? Except for like the main character who kind of gets out, or the few, like that's
right.
kind of the
We're fighting for the American values, as we Star Trekkers do.
Yeah, so there's this like blurred line between a dystopia and a utopia, right?
But I don't think we're thinking that Russia has some sort of a utopia in mind or anything like that.
Well,
it really, it does have more to do with the friction that's being created.
I mean, let's not get
more
ahead
so
of
than some
ourselves.
sort of
Let's
goal.
first get ourselves under the shadow of the superpower by any means necessary,
what I mean
and then we can worry about whether or not we want to be soft and.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was an element of humiliation after the Cold War ended. And I think in the minds of a lot of Russians, the Cold War never did end. They were still continuing this animosity.
Well, it's evident with Putin.
Oh yeah, like
the former KGB
Putin.
guy. What? Why? What is his? How do you pronounce it? I always pronounce it Putin.
Do you? Yeah.
Putin?
I'm not sure exactly what the pronunciation is, but
I think it's Putin. Yeah, I don't know why
it sounded very much like Putin.
Maybe
It's almost vomit.
Maybe that's subconscious.
Putin.
It's like Trump's China.
China.
Putin. Okay. But yeah, like they continued that mentality of the Cold War up until present day, and this is a direct result of that kind of mentality. They want their pride back, and in their minds, this is the way to do it. Like, why not? The Americans fucked them over in a sense, so let's fuck them right back. And the new warfare will be online. In essence, it's like that clip from The Simpsons. The wars of the future won't be fought on battlefields.
Well, right. I think it
fought
was
in space by tiny robots.
I think it was that Baudrillard guy that said that like war hasn't been real since the Gulf War. Like since it's been televised, it's now a TV show. It's not. It's not.
I mean, that's a little weird. Those kinds of academic pontificating, because I mean, for the people who are in the wars, for the people whose whole families are getting murdered, for the people who are losing their limbs and their lives, it's not a fake war. It's, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know, but and to them, it's.
I think it's a
also,
little bit rich for an academic.
It's also
in
not
the West.
for them. They're just being killed. They're being sent out there as if they're not human beings, and they're being put to war by in a sense, bullies. That are just in charge.
But how is that different from any time in history? It's always been
you're right.
Been a power manipulating plebes, and
the pawns, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I have.
Shall I start quoting Black Sabbath, War Pigs? No.
Yeah.
No.
I don't even know the song.
Generals gather in their masses. Just like witches at black masses.
Okay, we don't want to get sued.
Isn't there some what do you call it? Common
Fair
use,
right?
Fair
usage policy. Yeah.
Just
How many seconds
Don't
am I
sing
allowed?
Happy Birthday. Whatever you do.
Wait, didn't that actually finally come into the public domain? But it only happened recently.
Yeah, no.
What happened?
Until
yeah.
recently in Hollywood movies and everything and on TV, you never heard people actually singing "Happy Birthday" in a birthday scene where
Like
somebody's
the
blowing
end
out
of
the
a
candles.
I didn't know it suddenly went public domain. Is that true?
Yeah.
It really is. So
Yeah.
we could sing Happy Birthday right now and
I
not have to pay.
don't
for
want to
it.
risk it though. Okay, so get this. According to an article in the Washington Post, Russian government hackers used antivirus software to steal U.S. cyber capabilities. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, but this is from a credible source. It's the Washington Post. So according to the article here, Russian government hackers lifted details of U.S. cyber capabilities from a National Security Agency employee, an NSA employee, okay, who was running Russian antivirus software on his computer.
Oh my God.
According to several individuals familiar with the matter. So it goes on. The employee had taken classified material home to work on it on his computer, and his use of Kaspersky Lab antivirus software enabled Russian hackers to see his files. So the case, which dates to 2015, has not been made
I
public.
can't believe he even used a software that has a Russian name. Kaspersky? Kaspersky Labs?
That's fascinating. And like an NSA employee.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. I can't believe that they don't have firm protocols there for all of their tech activity.
I understand that it could possibly come down to human error, but that's a big error.
That's a big error.
What are you doing using Russian antivirus software? It's crazy.
I guess my issue is I'm looking at these wars of the world trying to destroy things that in my mind should be destroyed. Like what exactly is Western society building towards anyways? Where are we pointing? You know what I mean?
What?
I'm just talking about the destructions of societies, and I don't understand what the problem is.
Maybe
that's why I was
you're
I was using
honestly
the analogy.
advocating like what do they call it, disaster politics.
I'm not.
Are you Steve Bannoning?
I'm not.
You're totally Steve
I'm
Bannoning
not
us.
suggesting that. I'm just saying that we're very amoebas within our culture itself. Like we're not even ourselves pointed towards anything except protecting ourselves at this point.
I think that kind of cynicism and uncertainty, like just fundamental kind of doubt about everything. That's like exactly what these Russian troll farms are trying to sow. We have strong kind of moral senses and. Or at least philosophical.
When you say we, you're talking
I mean
about,
you and I and
okay.
and Mark too. I think.
Thank you.
Mark, we're never sure.
But I know that you have some strong ideals. Like you have like some allegiances to Buddhist philosophy and things like this. And I know that some of your opinions are pretty strongly held, right? If you abandon even that kind of almost a sense of certainty in your mind, then you're just leaving yourself completely vulnerable to manipulation and being fucked around with, and it's I don't know, it just seems foolish to me. I think. Well,
I am very foolish, just so you know.
Sure. We're all foolish, but isn't the point to try and not be foolish to some extent?
Absolutely.
Like, don't we have actually a responsibility not to try and avoid being manipulated to somebody else's ends?
Okay, but I mean, there's so much manipulation everywhere. I mean, there's so many things within our own society that we are ignoring. That aren't right, and that will only continue as we continue to ignore them. I mean, climate change, all these things.
But again, that's like a perfect enemy, perfect being the enemy of the good kind kind of argument, right?
Yeah, like I think you're right. There is a lot wrong in their society. Like you mentioned, climate change. There's homelessness. There are a lot of societal problems, right? But I don't think the answer is necessarily the complete and utter destruction.
Abject surrender.
No. But what I am saying is that what exactly are we trying to protect here? Like it really does just seem to be a bunch of bullies.
You're trying to protect
each other
the
with
things,
egos.
the things that in your reasoning are worthwhile, are valuable, right? Like you're trying to protect the notion that lying is shitty, or protect the notion that fundamental rights are
important,
good or important. No, you don't think these are?
Well, yeah, but I'm not necessarily saying that. I don't know why I would think that Russian people are bad people.
Okay,
if suddenly the entire world were to become Russia.
Okay, that's what you're getting at. Go ahead. No, go ahead. It's not about us becoming Russia. It's about us being manipulated to another individual's personal venal ends
or a state's ends.
Yeah.
Like my problem with what they're doing is not that like I don't want to become Russian. That's not.
But all states are just an agglomeration of individuals.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate thing that I'm trying to not have happen by resisting this kind of thing. Is like I don't want to be manipulated by a government, by an individual. I want my sense of individuality, my sense of what I think to be right, to continue existing as that. I don't want another state's or another individual's goals or morals to be imposed on me. And
so we want freedom, is what I guess we're saying.
Sure.
I think that's the thing that we want.
Yeah, and without going to the American extreme of America, fuck yeah, freedom, USA, that kind of thing. Like,
right.
It's not the in-your-face freedom.
It's freedom. I'm shitting in your face. Freedom.
It's the freedom whether you like it or not. And we're gonna fucking free you when you fucking. Right. We're gonna missile free you.
We're gonna impose our freedom on you
by
so that
force.
we're free. And we're free.
Yeah, everyone must know of our peaceful ways by force if necessary. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like fundamental freedoms. Are like. The whole idea that women are equal to men in every regard, that homosexuals deserve every right that everyone else has.
First of all, I always have a hard time with the use of the word equal. I always see it as it's a misuse of a word there. People are not...
Some like equitable instead?
Mutual maybe is better.
Okay, well, semantics aside...
No, but I mean, word games and these games that we're playing with words.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's maybe that's the only problem on fucking Earth. You know what I mean?
Word games?
Is that everything is a word game that we haven't worked out yet.
Sure. But all of that aside, what I'm saying is, like... Everyone deserves those freedoms and those rights to exercise their ability to live to the best to the best possible, right?
Sure, right.
And that's like if you look at the problems in Russia today, they're where's in Chechnya that they're hunting down and executing gays and lesbians and anyone who has homosexual tendencies because they don't like them.
Okay, so we're going. We don't like their values. We still feel that our values are better than their values.
It's not about our values and their values. It's about like the operative word there isn't the they.
No,
isn't the there.
Right.
It's the values.
It's the values
that are the
because like
so.
Hold on a second.
Insofar as Russia is actually full of normal people. All of those people have a variety of values, and some people will elevate and defend values that are a lot more compatible with the values that I consider ideals. Mm-hmm. And some other ones are explicitly doing things that can pretty much objectively be called venal, right? Like what Putin does in the Ukraine and shit like that.
Yeah, like there are things that are objectively, let's say, for the sake of argument, moral and immoral, right? If we accept things that are moral as being more beneficial to the general welfare of individuals and society, you can say anything that is against that is objectively immoral and therefore wrong, such as the execution of gays and lesbians in Chechnya. That is
not good.
No, that's not good. That is not a good thing, and that's the kind of thing that I am.
And that's not like a relativistic thing,
right?
Which I think a lot of people would want to try and defend. that kind of difference of opinion on that kind of subject. You know, I think there's room for actually arguing the merits of different moral propositions, regardless of the cultural contexts that these moral ideas come out of. No?
Yeah.
I think so. All leading towards this idea of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not like I actually care whether whether or not the country I'm in is part of Russia or not. What I care about is that evil isn't being isn't being done with me not saying a word about it or even appreciating it and promoting it. You know what I mean? I'm not against Russia. I'm against anybody in Russia or anywhere else doing particularly heinous shit. Right. That's it.
Yeah, and that's exactly my position too. Like I don't want evil to become more prominent than it already is. I don't care if it's coming from Russia or if it's coming from within Canada. Yeah. You know, it's the fact that it's coming from somewhere. You know, and it's the
that's
imposition.
Why it's more of the this tu quoque bullshit there that people are calling this kind of awakening to the cyber warfare efforts coming out of Russia and to Russia's other geopolitical aims. Some people are calling anything that addresses it or talks about it as the new Red Scare. Mm-hmm. You know, this is that kind of false equivalency to quoque kind of bullshit again. With you know, one clearly flawed or venal mindset trying to undermine. I don't know. Just basic decency, if you ask me. But
I guess my problem is, and I'm thinking of this from a Hegelian perspective. I just feel like it's a constant pendulum swinging back and forth sort of thing, and in a sense, what we're talking about is transcending philosophies altogether to encompass this freedom, this idea of freedom that we have, that everyone can then live up to their greatest potential as human beings and develop and move forward and stuff like that. And I just constantly see that
but there are clearly things that impede that kind of transcending.
And there are also things that are objectively and demonstrably conducive to those things becoming reality.
Don't you think it's worthwhile to resist the things that impede that ideal transcending that you're talking about, and it's also worthwhile to encourage the things that don't impede and that do help.
Yeah, but that would take a very specific identification of them, and then.
Well, I mean, it's something that we do constantly, but that we, to a large extent, make up as we go along. But that doesn't mean that it's invalid. At all.
No, I guess because I often have a tendency to speak in very all-encompassing ways.
And I'm probably casting what you're saying in a way that makes it easier to use as a devil's advocate kind of thing.
Right.
Don't think I'm
to a certain degree. I think, and I'm of the opinion that Western society it's a good, if it's not a perfect model to achieve that end, but it's a good framework within which we can achieve that goal.
Work towards.
Definitely not perfect. There are fundamental, like I said before, societal problems in Western culture that we need to address if we're to get to a better point in society, right?
Like the elevation of narcissists and the worship of wealth.
Yeah, profits before people is the wrong way to do it. You know, it has to be flipped around. That has to be where change
and
stems from.
that does not, like, that only seems to be occurring with fear of the dismantling of a system. Do we start?
I don't. Like I said, I don't think it's the complete and utter abandonment and dismantling of the system that needs to occur. I think there's certain things that have to be removed from it in order for it to function better.
Right.
That doesn't require that the system be destroyed.
What I mean is that I see that a system is just a tool, and it's what we're doing with the tool. Like, in a sense, it doesn't even matter what the system is, as long as we're using that tool.
I think it does matter, because if you use fascism as the tool to achieve the end, that won't work, right? Just by the very nature of fascism.
Right.
Right. So, like I said, I think Western civilization is the better tool to use.
Yeah. Like fascism could be like a hammer on a thumbtack. Like it's not the right tool,
right?
I think, to do what you want to do, and what we want to do is be free.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to end it then. Any final thoughts on the issue of cybersecurity, cyber warfare? We divulged into a whole slew of different topics. Digressed, thank you. So morality. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Anyway,
morality. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Ooh, Rick.
Ooh,
Final thoughts. Final thoughts for me, I guess, would just be don't abdicate your reason and personal idealism, feel free to continue to be kind of vigilant in terms of manipulation and stuff like that.
Fight the war of peace, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Fight the war of peace. Luke?
That was my final
That's your
thought
final
right there.
thought?
Yeah. Fight the war of peace.
What about you, Mark?
It just was like, okay, great. Thanks, Luke.
Well, along the same lines as your closing thought, Jill, never abandon your critical reasoning skills. Make sure you hone them in order to tell what could potentially be foreign manipulation, be it online or in other forums or other arenas. And, I think our government needs to invest more in protecting critical infrastructure from potential cyber attacks. We're not doing that. We're not doing it enough. We're trying to, but we really need to up our game if we're...
Like, we're technologically retarded, is what you're saying, yeah.
Quite literally.
Russia, if you're listening, we're not doing so good.
Yeah. We're technically retarded, and we're apparently kind of socially retarded, too, because we're on both fronts. We're kind of letting this shit erode, or failing to actually protect ourselves from this shit.
Well, this could
on
be
a technical level and on a social cultural level.
Yeah.
I've always been assuming that this is just this is a phase that we are going through.
Oh yeah,
right now,
sure.
right, and it will probably be very, I'm assuming, short-lived. Like there's this
Hopefully.
I find that there is this other sense of people sort of transcending this whole thing and going, you know what? No, man, like just be kind, kind of thing. Be nice to people.
Yeah, but I mean, on another level too, civil wars happen, and they have happened on this continent before, or at least one has. So it's not impossible that it actually kind of sinks lower.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta stay on top of it, kind of thing. We can't just kind of rest on our laurels or think we're above it all and think that's going to carry the day. That's it. We can't rest.
We can't rest.
Be vigilant.
Yeah.
Adapt, adjust.
And you know what? Check out like bone up on the old-fashioned logical fallacies, because when you know them and you keep them top of mind, you see them everywhere every time they're pulled. So all of this kind of false equivalence, to quoque, and red herrings, and all this kind of bullshit that you're seeing online, you can see
straw man arguments.
Yeah.
Like there's a really good website. It's a nice one-page thing where you can click on different buttons for various logical fallacies, and we'll post that up in the description for this video, because it's really important that people be aware of this kind of thing, because the logical fallacies are employed not just by Russian trolls.
This like meme magic 4chan stuff. Yeah. It's like a perfect application of fallacies. Yeah. It's fucking amazing.
Like public relations.
A lot of these people, they actually
a lot of public relations campaigns take full advantage
Yeah.
of like appeals to authority and
Yeah.
other fallacies. So like once you're aware of what a logical fallacy is and
You
how to
can
recognize
see what's
them,
complete fucking bullshit when they're
Exactly.
using this shit all the time.
yeah. And
Okay.
they're great for trying to debate with other people too.
So look within yourselves for the truth and don't rely too much on the external world for truths. Find some sort of an equilibrium within yourself
that's
so
one
that
part
you
of it.
can then identify
Yeah.
what could possibly this and be this and what can be that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This has been Critical Junction episode. I fucked that up. This has been Critical Junction episode 26. I'm Mark.
I'm still Luke, supposedly.
I'm Jill.
As always, thanks for listening, and we will catch you again next time.